Jill and I are going to talk about something today that no matter what we do with it, no matter how we talk about it, if we do not unequivocally praise this writing decision, someone will be mad. Also, if we do, somebody else will be mad. But, that I think that there's more of a angry crowd around one side of this discussion. I will get into that in a minute, but essentially, Tim Drake has come out as bisexual in the comics. Now, where Robin wants to stick his little Robin, where he wants to put, his eggs, is not really a central part of this character. That's what you'd say, right? Except that it kind of has been forever, actually. This Robin has been around for a little over 30 years, and a big point with this Robin has also been his brain, which they're trying to spin in a way with this, and Jill can get into that in a minute, but he has always essentially been heterosexual. I mean, He really has. And also, a big sticking point with his continuity has always been his relationship with Stephanie Brown, who they conveniently kind of broke him away from in order to go this writing direction. Now, I think it's worth noting, you sadly have to qualify opinions like this for some goddamn reason. I don't know why. I am not bisexual. I'm heterosexual. Just like I don't really care if somebody who's LGBTQ has an opinion about Spider-Man, who's heterosexual. I think it shouldn't matter who's talking about this. But since it does, I'm not against any sort of LGBTQ relationships in comic books. I will actually put my foot down and say that one of the most interesting pair-ups in recent history of probably the last decade has been Harley Quinn and Ivy. Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy together is great. Now, for some reason, DC goes back and forth on them a lot. Will they, won't they? It really jumps up and down. It wouldn't fully confirm them and jump in without doing bombshells first, which is odd. But I love that couple together,
Yeah, they're really cute. And the thing with Harley is, the thing with both Harley and Ivy is they've always been very sexual women in their nature, and they flirted with other women before, noticeably. So it's kind of like, well, we kind of thought they were
there's been hints of it since the Batman the Animated Series.
They pretty much just confirmed everyone's suspicions with that
right.
one.
And I will say, by the way, same with Catwoman, coming out as officially bi in the comics, because I don't really care. So that's the thing too, is like, if you're gonna say, well, Dre is homophobic, he doesn't want people to be gay in the comics. The thing is, like, I don't care where it fits fine. It fits with Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy. It completely fit, by the way, with Catwoman. She has been... That's been something that people pretty much knew. I mean, is Catwoman's bi. It's pretty obvious.
Yeah, it's always been very obvious.
And also, to address one other thing, there are going to be people who say, well, Jill, someone doesn't have to be overly sexual to be LGBTQ, which is true, but if in 30 years of existing as different iterations of comic characters, they've never shown a sign of that up until the last year, that's kind of...
It can be quite shocking to fans. It would have fit better if they had made a new Robin, which would have been very spicy, by the way, and interesting, and had a new Robin be... either bi or gay, or they could have even gone the route that Sailor Moon did, where there is a character in Sailor Moon who is a woman that presents herself as a man, usually, and she's in love with another woman. They could have gone that route, too. It would have been really interesting and spicy, and I think that it would have fit very well, but instead they took a pre-existing character, just like they're trying to do with Superman, and changed him to fit their narrative, which I find kind of odd and a little bit offensive, simply because being bi isn't a token. It shouldn't be a tokenization.
Or being black, by the way.
Yeah,
that's
or
my
being
thing
black.
with the Superman thing. Like, we got Val Zod. Now there's talks to maybe use Val Zod too, by the way. But the original talks were just, no, this will be Clark Kent. And it'll be just basically, Kal-El was the original rumor and talks. And for me, it's like, that's kind of, to me, where it crosses a line into, oh, you're using a community to sell your book. That's my issue. And can I say, too, by the way, with what you said about it being insensitive, I think it's worth noting a lot of people can't even get their facts straight on this. This is not the first LGBTQ Bat family member. I've seen people trying to say it is. It's not. Batwoman was, first off. Secondly, this is not about representation, and here's why. DC gets away with burying any character who doesn't sell enough.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what I mean by that is Tim Drake does not have his own comic. Have you noticed this? This is in Batman Urban Legends.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason this is in Batman Urban Legends. Do you know why that is? Batman, as a name, sells, even if you're selling the Bat family.
Mm-hmm.
DC knows that. Brand recognition, simple enough. However, the thing with that is that Batwoman did have her own comic series a couple of different times. It lasted through New 52, surprisingly, for the most part. But then it was done away with, actually, a little while into Rebirth, I believe, in 2018. She was also a big deal in the Detective Comics line for Rebirth, but then, she has kind of played no role, is what I'm getting at here. In the comics recently, she showed up a little bit in Joker War, did not have a big part at all, and then she showed up in Doomsday Clock on, 2 pages, So they don't care about showing a Bat family member who's established as...
Yeah, I find it really annoying that they are kind of essentially just throwing in making Tim Drake bi to fit some writer's fantasy there, because they're pulling a fanfic, they're pulling a Jill at 15 on Wattpad. Anyway, they're making him bi simply because it is diverse and because they're trying to sell to more LGBT people, I think. But I just kind of find it offensive because I love seeing representation and I love seeing actual LGBT characters in comics, but I don't like when they take a pre-existing character and change them just to get a dime. It kind of feels like they're trying to do a cash grab here.
When people are going to say, I've seen this, there's been people saying, well, Jay, you're straight. What do you know about this or that or whatever? And I really have seen that. In fact, when we talked about this, by the way, there's a friend of ours, I'll just call him Speedy because that's what he goes by online. I don't want to dox him here. There's a friend of ours who has a condition that rendered him largely immobile in a wheelchair, right? So he has a disability, or whatever you want to call it. And I know that when he first said on Twitter that he didn't think it made any sense, people were telling him oh, why don't you get out of your chair and say that? Or, how about you walk?
And one person even said, imagine being crippled.
Yeah, and then when I said something in defense of him, they proceeded to creepily, find my wife's Twitter and, harass her for probably a couple hours and stuff like that. And by the way, this is the other thing. A lot of these are the people that they're doing this for. These are people who believe that they have the moral high ground, not gay people. But I mean the people who support these kinds of decisions in writing, right? Here's the issue. If you ever want to know really what I'm talking about, you should listen to a song. I believe it's Bob Dylan. I think it's called With God on My Side. I'm trying to remember it. And the whole point of the song is about having the moral high ground. It's you do this. It's about the U.S. military, actually, originally. I think it's about Vietnam. I am getting to a point, Jill, I promise you.
I know you are.
And the whole point about it is we went in with God on our side. We couldn't do anything wrong. And then we burned down the village with God on our side. We didn't do anything wrong. And then they were, touching the women, but God was on our side. And it kept escalating. That's the point of it, right? Now, I'm not saying these people are religious, but the problem with the moral high ground argument that I've been seeing with this is that there is no room for debate. A lot of people believe that because this is representation, it is inherently good, it is inherently moral, and because of that, if you disagree with it, that argument is inherently immoral. You cannot have an argument when one side believes it has God on its side, the absolute moral high ground. Because the same exact way I've seen this argument pushed of, if you don't like this, it means you are homophobic, or it means you don't want a gay Robin, which, by the way, we said, just make a new gay Robin.
I would love a gay Robin.
I always thought Carrie Kelly should be bisexual or lesbian, by the way, in the Frank Miller comics, and maybe at some point she will officially fully be, but they don't really explore much of her love life at all in those. But anyways, when you have a group that has that moral high ground mindset, there's no arguing, and anything that they say to you is excusable. Them going after someone's disability or someone's weight or someone's looks, stuff like this, on Twitter and attacking them because they disagree is excusable. What's ironic about that is that I can easily do that same thing. If you, and just hear me out, and you're going to think this is a crazy argument, and I agree with you, but if hating this writing decision makes Jill or I homophobic or whatever, right? Then I truly think that the people not standing up for Batwoman, not getting her representation in the comics right now, not mattering, not getting her own solo line, are minimizing women.
I honestly kind of think that those people don't really care about representation at all if they don't give a shit about Batwoman.
Right, and what I'm saying is that, like, if you are not advocating for a Batwoman comic line, Batwoman being openly lesbian, and by the way, her love interest is actually fucking interesting, by the way, unlike this.
Just ignore the TV show.
And well written, yeah, not the TV show, the comics. Why is that not misogynist? You know what I mean? Why do you want to build up a white male character over a female character who's also, by the way, an LGBTQ bad family member? Do you see what I'm saying? Like, you spin these things in a way where it's like you trap your opponent. It's almost like, I've seen this before, obviously. People used to do this a lot with 9/11 in politics, where it would kind of be like bringing it up as a way to throw someone else under the bus by using that issue and standing on the backs of like the people who died in the World Trade Center. But they're politicians. Like they don't give a shit. They're just going to do that, right? That's what a lot of people are doing, is they're sort of standing on the backs of an issue that has hurt a lot of people. A lot of people have killed themselves because they didn't feel like they could come out as LGBTQ in some way, whether it's gay or bi or whatever. I'm sorry, I don't want to, steal the whole video. I do want to let you talk more, but I was just trying to, highlight how these people who are like bullying us and stuff, it's like they think it's all excusable because they're in the moral right, but like anyone can spin this to be that.
Well, like the thing with those people is they can't even figure out a good fucking argument. They just go straight to being like, "Oh yeah, well you're fat. Oh yeah, well you're crippled." That's so against those ideals.
Against inclusivity?
Yeah, because
they're not
it's
inclusive.
ableist and it's also fat phobic too. And there is a lot of people who advocate for the rights and the kindness to people who are disabled and who are larger.
Yeah, it also, by the way, completely dismisses the possibility of like bettering yourself. Like, for example, you and I have both been working on weight loss.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It what it does is it breaks down a human being to like what you think an insecurity of theirs is. By the way, I find me being fat kind of funny. So like I know a lot of people don't, but like for me, like sometimes in live streams I will like not show my bare butt, but like last time I was on a live stream, like I was in shorts and I like twerked as a joke. I don't have a lot of uncomfortability because for me, my being uncomfortable with being fat was that I never thought. I always thought I had a worse chance with women. You know what I mean? Now that I'm married, I'm not saying that I don't work on my body anymore, but it's like, well, you're stuck. You know what I mean? You're not getting away. No, but I'm just saying, like, I don't have to impress people, I'm more happy with myself because there's only one person I really care about impressing. And so, people try and find that crack. They try and find something that you are very insecure about and hurt you with it, right? And it's usually, I've noticed a lot of times it is that inclusive crowd who does that, which is amusing.
It isn't always all of them, though. I have met some people who are a part of that crowd who are very nice people and actually genuinely want to make the world a happier and better place. But sadly, those kind of people are very far and few between.
Yeah, I will quote my old friend Tay, who I haven't seen in a long time, who was never on this channel, but she would always say, and by the way, she was like one of my best friends. She was lesbian, hardcore, always fangirling over another girl that she wanted to be with.
That's cute.
But, we would always hang out. We'd actually even talk about girls together. But, she always said that a lot of those people are like an embarrassment. You know what I mean? To like the LGBTQ community or any community, right? It comes off as an embarrassment because they hijack the narrative, and then those are the people we talk about. Like this right now, there has been very little mention of positive interactions with those people, even though they exist, because those people steal the limelight.
Yeah. Speaking of embarrassing, there is a quote actually from the comics that I read from Variety.com, which it's very fifth grade, really wanting your Sam Dean Castiel ship to get together.
Winchester.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's very Wattpad fanfic Dan and Phil. Anyway, here's what it says. I'm really glad you got home okay. I've been doing a lot of thinking about that night, and I don't know what it meant to me. Not yet. But I'd like to figure it out, Tim says about their dinner. I was hoping you would. Tim Drake, do you want to go on a date with me? Bernard asks. Yeah. Yeah, I think I want that.
Please land your robin in my tree.
Yeah, it's not very good writing.
Well, that's the other thing, is it's really shitty writing. I'm just gonna say it, for something that's supposed to matter, right? Now,
It's hard to take seriously.
I don't want to throw the writer of this under the bus. That's not really what it's about. It's more about just the character choice.
Mm-hmm.
And how I think it's amusing to me that all of these comic book companies have had very little interest in this community until they believed it could sell. Have you noticed how they took almost no risks on selling LGBTQ books until gay marriage was legalized?
Yeah, pretty much. Because they thought, oh, well, we're not going to make money off of this. Gay people don't exist.
Yeah, well,
and now all of a sudden...
they do exist, but they're not worth it because the wide majority of people was the audience, and they didn't want to alienate them, right? It was like it was like getting rid of them. By the way, speaking of that, have you heard of the bury your gays trope?
I haven't.
It's essentially in writing where you introduce a gay character just to kill them off for sympathy.
Oh my gosh, I have seen that happen many times.
And speaking of that, by the way, that's something that a few times they've done with Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy for no goddamn reason, is they keep splitting them up in a way with the bury your gays trope in a way. Mm-hmm. I don't want to get into specifics of the books. They're not bad books, but it's obnoxious, right? Mm-hmm. That's why I think a lot of people have hope for the Harley Quinn cartoon, that they will be able to do that better there. Mm-hmm. Since there are hints that couple will be together. I just think overall people don't want... When people hear that someone disagrees with this writing decision, they want to view that person in one specific way. If you do agree with this writing decision, here's the thing. I don't think you're a dick. You know what I mean? Like that's the difference here with this dialogue, is if you do agree with Tim Drake being bi, I would like to know why. And
I think that's fine.
And I don't have a name to call you based off of it. You know what I mean? I don't have a slur to throw your way or like a personal insult to levy against you. Just why do you think that? Because I can tell you why I don't. Mm-hmm. Years of established versions of the character, never any hint of, never any inclination towards, and
it's down to your own opinion as well.
Well, and the disrespectful idea of how this works. You were talking about the Variety article. They literally said that Tim Drake had a light bulb moment. People don't have light bulb moments with their sexuality. It's not like a fad where it's like, I think I'm gonna wake up and try being gay today. That's not how it works.
A lot of times, even in childhood, a lot of people will kind of show symptoms of sort of liking the same sex as them. Like, for example, if you're a girl and you grow up and you realize that you're bi later, but when you were younger, you used to make your women Barbie dolls kiss, but you didn't know why. It's kind of like those seeds have always been sown in your personality. People genuinely are, I think, born like that.
Well, the thing is, saying the opposite is what a lot of people are against, isn't it? The idea that you can choose to be gay. That's not what it is. I mean, that's what people have been saying for years. I know at my fundamentalist Christian high school I went to back in the day, the idea was like, people can choose to be gay and they can choose not to be gay. And I was always like, well, there's no scientific research backing that up, actually, at all.
It just isn't true.
That's not really how it works. People can suppress being gay. Mm-hmm. Like, if that's what you're trying to say, sure. Just like I can suppress being heterosexual and just instead work 90 hours a week, right? Mm-hmm. Anybody can suppress their sexuality.
And be unhappy, usually.
That's not the same, you know? Like, there was always this almost fundamentalist religion aspect I've seen in this country, especially with a misunderstanding of what it is. Now it almost seems like that's on the other side of the not just political spectrum, but I guess ideal or ideology spectrum, where now people are saying like, well, anyone can choose to be gay and that's good. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, we've been advocating against that for decades now. Why are we all of a sudden embracing that just to get gay Robin or just to get whatever, you know?
It's just very odd. It feels like an extreme tokenization of that character just to throw in the LGBT community in there and to get those sales. It's kind of like if they added in a character like let's say, for example, they made Batman Asian all of a sudden, and they made him say some really racist things like, I only eat egg rolls. Or things like that.
Oh my.
I'm just saying it would feel very tokenized and very racist.
And you're saying that because they made like cringe statements completely about Robin's sexuality out of his own mouth,
it feels
that it comes
a lot
off
like that.
more like tokenization?
Yeah, it feels like
I feel like you're gonna have to cut out your example.
No, I'm just saying it kind of feels like they are trying to take that Robin and make sort of a homophobic example of him, like an extreme example of what they think a bisexual or gay person is.
He's also drawn as more feminine in the comic than he has been before. Did you notice that?
No, I didn't, but
Yeah.
that's like, again, that's like taking, a character of a different race and doing an extreme version of them and showing them, doing things that would be considered racist. It's like that, but with sexuality.
It's like South Park. It's like, to speak to your Asian example, it's like the cook in South Park who runs the Chinese buffet.
Yeah.
I forget his name, but who's always going up against the Mongolians.
Yeah.
Now, that's a parody and that's a joke, and the point is the absurdity of it.
Mm-hmm.
This almost could have been a parody in and of itself, but it doesn't realize its absurdity.
Mm-hmm. The thing is, it's just, it feels very wrong. It feels like they're just pulling another, let's turn Superman black and forget about Val Zod, which I feel like erases the whole black community in terms of being fans of like Val Zod and such, because there was a lot of young men especially who would grow up who would see themselves in someone like Val Zod and be like, yeah, I can be a superhero too.
Or Miles Morales. It's like
Yeah.
getting rid of Miles Morales to instead make Peter Parker black or
Mm-hmm.
African American and Latino mixed or whatever you want.
It
seems
erases
weird.
that person, feels like.
Right, in order to sell off of someone who's more marketable.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. There's a reason why this isn't a Midnighter and Apollo story, which I'm sure a lot of people don't even know who they are because of DC not using them.
Mm-hmm.
Openly gay characters, by the way, 2 men.
Mm-hmm.
Openly gay. They had a miniseries years ago, but not a lot of people even know who Midnighter and Apollo are. There's a reason why this isn't a story about Batwoman. Because Batwoman only gets bad press from her show.
Mm-hmm.
She's not marketable right now.
Mm-hmm.
She's only marketable off of blunders with a CW show, and that's it.
Yeah.
And finally, if you don't believe anything we've said in this is the same company, which, by the way, and I love the stuff DC Comics makes. I love the stuff WB makes in general. But this is the same company who is now bringing up Static Shock again after canceling Virgil's character. Not like, on Twitter, but getting rid of his book. He had a book in the New 52,
Mm-hmm.
got canceled real quick. It was brought up as like a, this is a black superhero. Kids connected with him on TV for years on his show Static Shock, back on WB Cartoons, and they got rid of that. Then he was gone forever, made only a minor appearance here or there, didn't matter at all, minimized into the earth. Now, it's ironic how after the Black Lives Matter movement is popular, right? In comes Virgil again. Back comes Static Shock as a brand. That's what I'm saying, right? Is a lot of this is opportunistic marketing. Why is it that no one cared to bring back Static until the death of somebody who was obviously wrongfully killed, and then it became a huge talking point in our country and then in the world, and then all of a sudden people were noticing these communities more. All of a sudden in comes Good Guy DC with a new Static comic. Do you get what I'm saying here?
Yeah.
It comes off to me as opportunistic and vampiric to do this in this way, and to do a lot of the decisions they've made that people stand on a moral platitude about if you question. Bringing back Static after the death of Mr. Floyd, which was horrible. Bringing back a LGBTQ comics character a couple months after Pride Month and not focusing on ones that already were. Things like that. It just comes off real opportunistic.
It just feels very wrong and scummy and like a disgusting business move and rather than a smart one. And I don't really want to support that and have them do more things like this. It's kind of I don't know, it just feels very wrong to me and offensive.
But not that they are bi, it's how they did it. I think
Yeah.
that's worth mentioning, because someone's going to clip that and say, well, Jill said that it's offensive to her that they're bi.
No,
that's not what you're saying. It's how they did it.
No, I would love to see more bisexual characters in the comic books industry, but the thing is, you need to make them like that, like make them new characters and make characters that are very interesting to people, rather than just taking a name that sells and being like, all right, let's slap a label on him.
Same thing with when they've been talking recently about wanting Batman to be black. There's a reason why they're not focusing on Batwing, right? There's a reason why they don't want to focus on that title, and why there would be interest in Black Batman. It's because they know that the name sells. And I think that that's, to me, where it's no longer representation, is when you're doing it just because the name sells, and you can add a twist to it that makes it different based off of one of those communities. That's tokenization.
Yeah, you're just tokenizing your character based off of a minority community, and it's not right.
But don't question it, otherwise people will make fun of any like physical defect you have, whether it be a disability or your weight or your eye color or whatever, on Twitter. So like, you better not question that, because
it's
the
fucking
SS
ridiculous.
is on its way to your door.
It's just it's really sad.
It's
kind
crazy
of what the world's coming to.
I remember back in the day, you know, in Germany, when the SS went after that community. I guess now they've decided with it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm calling them Yahtzees.
I got it.
I hope they get it.
I'm sure they'll definitely understand that you're referencing a board game, yes.
Oh, Sequence was always my favorite as a kid. Do you have anything to say about this? I mean, I think we closed up our thoughts pretty well. We can slide this under 30 minutes.
I'm just saying, like, the thing is, I want to go back to the point you made earlier about women. The whole thing with that is, it feels like instead of focusing more on the female LGBT characters that they have and focusing more on a male, it feels very sexist, and it feels like they're kind of being, like, those guys in the 2000s who would fetishize lesbians, kind of feels like they're trying to do that in a weird way because of them ignoring them so much.
Well, it's basically like Tim Drake is more visible, right?
Yeah.
So he's an easier one to get to the forefront to make headlines. That's kind of what it comes across to me. I mean, it worked. You know, people are talking about it. We're talking about it. But the only reason I didn't want to ignore it was because I've seen a lot of big name people shy away from this topic because of the hate that they get.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really care. I mean, it's obnoxious, but it's like, go ahead. I'm still going to have my opinion. Like, unless you're going to come to my house with a gun, like, you're not going to shut me up. So, all right. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we're not pussies.
Well, no, you get what I'm saying. It's like, I just feel like I should be able to have an opinion on the writing of a character I like. Just like when Batman went through his really rough period in, in the Rebirth. Basically, Batman for years with City of Bane and all these different comics was really mediocre as a brand. I Am Batman, I Am Suicide, that was the name of one of them. There was all these different lines of Batman, and it was really mediocre. And when that was the case, I was calling it out as mediocre. Mm-hmm. The writing wasn't very good.
But if he was an LGBT character in that series, he would have been called homophobic.
Probably, but the point I'm getting at was just that if I don't like the writing, I'm going to say I don't like the writing. It doesn't matter what aspect we're talking about. The only aspect I liked about that Batman was his relationship with Catwoman, and that was it, like the whole way through. So just like that, I don't like this aspect of the writing. And I'm allowed to say that. And you're allowed to disagree or agree.
And not be labeled as something horrible.
Well, at least not by me.
Yeah.
But that's because I have the moral high ground and I don't want to minimize women. I got God on my side. What are you going to do?
Oh, my gosh.
Well, it's interesting to talk about. We couldn't slide it under 30 minutes, but that's okay.
That's okay. You know, it's sometimes with big topics like these, you kind of have to have a little bit of a longer video.
Or someone's going to take what you say out of context and demonize you over it. That's what's annoying.
And these conversations are really important to have because with inclusivity, there's also going to be people who try to use it for evil. And that is the opposite of what we're trying to do.
Which is money making, right?
Yes.
Like you're saying, like they just use a community like a vampire to suck the money or life out of them, and then they throw them to the side and move on. We see this every single year. Pride Month. Why do you think no one advocates for LGBTQ relationships outside of Pride Month?
Yeah, why do you think nobody sells, like, rainbow-colored clothing and stuff and has sales on it except for in Pride Month?
Exactly.
It's like a
fad.
holiday.
It is a fad to them.
Yeah.
Your identity is a fad to companies.
Mm-hmm.
Just let that sink in, you know? And it's been that way, by the way, for heterosexual people forever, too. Sex sells. That was always the saying, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sexuality, it's not like, you know what I mean? Like, the guy in the back of the strip club doesn't care about the girls. He cares about the money. He's using your, I don't want to say weakness, but like your desire for that thing to make a profit off of your back. It's always been that way. I think people are just afraid to see that it's also that way with groups that are technically underrepresented, as they are labeled, or that they want to see inclusive representations of. People are afraid to see that now that is happening with it. As anything becomes more mainstream acceptable, I mean anything, money is to be made off of it. So as people are now seeing, you know, the black communities, a lot of people ignored them forever as they were gentrified into neighborhoods that were designed to actually keep them in poverty. By the way, low-income housing designed for them after slavery. The original idea was to get them into housing and get them out of white people's hair so that they wouldn't rebel against them or whatever and get revenge for slavery. That was kind of one of the original ideas. Well, over time, there's a reason why those areas were neglected, why they were run down, why they received less funds, federal government, state government, all those things. But people didn't really want to see that, you know, and now
now they're talking about it.
And now they're talking about it, and in comes Static Shock.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, has a twist in that direction now in the writing with the plot synopsis they've released, that it's much more inspired by modern day political events and stuff like that. And to me, it's not that you can't tell those stories. Same with this. My point is just that it comes off, like I've said 5 times in here, opportunistic. You are finding an in to make some money, and then you're going to get out as soon as you're going to lose it.
And then here's the thing. They're still ignoring a lot of other communities. Like, how many Spanish type of heroes or villains can you think of that are in the mainstream right now? How many
or
Asian...
that are not racist throughout the history of comic books? Like, I'm being serious.
Or
like,
any other race.
You'll see these characters and there'll be something like the taco thrower. Now that's something I made up, but it's something crazy like that that seems like really racist. Well, back in the day, no one cared and they thought it was super funny. So, you know, that's the kind of characters you'll see for a lot of those. That's why Miles Morales was such a big deal. He's black and he's Latino.
Yeah. And he's a great representation for that community, and he's not just wearing a sombrero and talking about tacos all the time, which is very racist and wrong.
You're saying he's not a caricature.
No, he's not a character.
He's human.
The thing is, they are only going to push more characters like Latina and Latino and every other type of race out there, even Jewish people. They're not going to push them until there's some movement for them, because there's no money for them in that industry.
And they widely back off of it. I mean, it was always implied that Superman was written by 2 Jewish men originally, and there was a big understanding for a lot of years that Superman was believed in the Jewish faith, and then that he, in many interpretations, was either Jewish or Christian. As religion has become less popular, they've moved away from that. That's what I'm saying, is that I'm not trying to call being LGBTQ popular or unpopular, but there is a sad history of it being unpopular. You know what I mean? And I think that if I don't even know if this would happen, but let's say hypothetically that interest waned in that community, whether it be from outside or from within, where maybe they don't care anymore about reading characters that are like them, and they started reading something else, you can bet these characters would go away.
Yeah, they would stop producing them.
They would revert.
End of story.
And that's why I'm saying that it's not about representation, it's about making money right now while you can. It's about getting in there.
It's about capitalizing off of people's current interests, which
in that community. Which,
the thing is, their current interests right now, some of them, is their entire identity. You know, it's how they are and who they are. And it just feels very wrong to capitalize off of that instead of, you know, a normal interest. Like, I don't know, if a lot of people really liked ice cream and they made Ice Cream Man.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. It's like you are turning something that is a real thing for many, many people into a fad to make money.
Yeah, it's wrong. They're not...
I mean, I've said this again about Pride Month for years, and every time I say it, people say I'm being, like, homophobic or whatever. So, I mean, if you want to pay billion-dollar companies to pretend to like you because of where you want to, sleep, like who you want to bed or whatever you want to call it. That's your money to do with as you please, but don't think they care about you. Don't think they really notice you. They don't. And as soon as Static Shock doesn't sell well, gone.
Mm-hmm. As soon as Miles Morales is no longer a point of interest, you can best believe nobody will know about him anymore.
If there were 0 sales for Batman Urban Legends going forward, they'd reverse course on Tim Drake immediately.
Yeah.
Because it's not about standing by the principle, it's about money.
Yeah.
So.
And that's the issue. They need to stand by the principle if they're going to do these things. Otherwise, it feels very ingenuine.
You shouldn't even do it based off of only principle alone, too. It should be because you have a story to tell that's interesting, that humanizes a character. Mm-hmm. If they are gay or not gay or white or black or whatever, that should be part of that story. But as soon as it's the whole story, you've got a problem. That's where it becomes tokenization. We just want black Superman because he's black, not because we have something interesting to say.
Yeah, pretty much.
And that's what I think this is.
Anyway, subscribe.
Well, I'm sure some people will be annoyed. Let us know what you think in the comments down below. I'm interested. This is a 37-minute video. I'm going to remember everything we said in this video for the most part. Mm-hmm. So I can also see, by the way, how long people watch this video for. People don't know that. So when they watch 5 minutes and then comment and think they know our entire argument, I know you didn't watch the whole video.
Yeah, and you kind of just look...
see that.
You kind of look a little silly, no offense. I'm not really going to cut down this video too much, I don't think, because I think a lot of what we said is really important.
You can't cut it down.
It needs to be heard.
Well, you can't cut it down, because sadly the way that this works is if you were to cut this to 20 minutes... people will take it and run with it and take something that's not fully explained and say this is the in to call this person homophobic, or this is the in to show that this person doesn't care about communities other than white heterosexuals and stuff like that. You just can't.
And
we're at the point where it's like even Joe Rogan, and the guy will talk 2.5 hours and someone will clip a 30-second thing he said and be like, look how transphobic this man is.
Yeah, because we live in the age of the internet, and the internet can be a wonderful thing at sometimes, and sometimes it can be really sucky.
Yep, mainly because human beings are garbage, just in general. All of them, including us, we have our problems. You know what I mean?
Hey, no, I'm a little angel. You tell me that all the time.
Yeah, but people have their problems, and a lot of times they're going to see what they want to see. And like I said again, you really should listen to, I'm going to make sure that it's actually the right song, name, because, I don't want to steer you wrong here on everything. At least you can go away with a good Bob Dylan song. Yeah, it's With God on Our Side by Bob Dylan. If you want to know what I'm talking about having the moral high ground, that's why you can't talk to most people anymore. Politics, religion, sexuality, anything. It's just out. They've got God on their side.
If the name Bob becomes popular again,
Popular.
Our next video is going to be top 5 best Bobs.
Top 5 best times I bobbed in comics.
Yeah, because we're going to capitalize off of those people's identity.
Epic. Off of Bob.
Yeah.
Very cool. Overwatch is cringing right now. Let us know what you think in the comments down below. I'm interested to hear. I would love to see, another story about Midnighter and Apollo. I'd love to see a story further exploring Catwoman. I'd love to see Batwoman not take a back seat in the Bat family for once in her damn life. But I don't get what I want. Instead, we get this. Have a fantastic day. Be sure to like this video if you enjoyed it. The people who didn't will certainly dislike it. And subscribe for more content.
The people who didn't even make it this far in the video.
That's true, yeah. They don't listen to the whole thing. It's the average watch time of 10 minutes and then they're out. But, alright, we'll see ya.
Bye! Stay straight!